But if you've got a more serious condition than back pain, I don't mean to be flippant about people with back pain, of course it matters. But everybody, a lot of people say they've got back pain and they haven't really. A lot of people say they've got stress, but they haven't really. Well, nothing out of the ordinary. But if you've got a serious condition and you can document it, then absolutely put that to the magistrate and explain that and do the best you can to get a light penalty. You might be able to get a lawyer to do the talking for you, but you should get some leniency depending on the degree of incapacity that you're treating. Okay? Not the time for war stories, but I've represented people with tens and tens of, I think 95 is my record, 95 plants, got to grow 95 plants. Magistrate accepted that was for his own use, for medicinal purposes. He had all sorts of proper evidence, and his account about how he was doing what he was doing was, I've got to say, a very coherent account. Magistrate said, fair enough, I accept all that. What are plants? Okay, I accept it, was all for medicinal purposes. He wasn't going to sell any of it, he wasn't giving any of it away, he wasn't smoking it for fun, he was using it for his own treatment. Okay? Now 95 is a pretty high number, I think. It's more common 10, 15, 20 plants. The higher the number of the plants, the more it is you've got to convince the magistrate that you needed that many plants really to make your tincture really. The higher the number, the harder it is. The larger the amount, the harder it is. But it's possible in terms of convincing a magistrate if you've got the right kind of case. Person here, I think I'll be first.
Just a quick yes or no question. Yes, they're standing there with a warrant, but can they enter your house without a warrant given that they've got reasonable suspicion?
No. No. Not reasonable suspicion of a drug offence being there. Excuse me, knows. There's always exceptions. The police can come in without invitation if there is a violent offence occurring. That is, they can hear people screaming, help, help, help. Sure, that's okay. But there's no such thing as a drug offence emergency. Really. So if someone's in danger, they've had a call that there's someone being beaten up, domestic violence happens all the time. So DV situations, there's been a call, they'll often come into the house if they hear people calling out. They'll knock on the door first. If they hear someone screaming in what sounds like pain, they'll just come in. They're not going to wait for an invitation or warrant. Okay? Another exception is the sort of dramatic one of the movie. Someone jumps the fence, jumps into your house, and there's an active chase happening. The cops will run after him. Don't worry about that. I can run through your house. What was that all about? Anyway, that can happen as well. Okay, but they're the two exceptions. Otherwise, invitation or warrant.
What about if the police contrive the case with the council? And they all come around your house with a warrant, but the warrant will be cats and dogs because they haven't been registered, and they go around and seize cannabis plants which they knew were there anyway, and then they go without even saying anything about your cats and dogs. Is there a case that perhaps the reason we're seeing the legalisation dragging its feet so much is that so much compensation is due to the people of Australia?
I doubt it. I doubt it. I don't think there's any concern about compensation. It's better time, when we have some sensible drug laws, there'll be no compensation to all the people who've been so hard done by for generations. There might be an apology. You might get one of those apologies, maybe. But there again, they wouldn't be waiting for the cheque in the mail, put it that way. But look, as far as the intention or the grounds for the warrant don't matter. If the police have got a warrant, so I have to go back one step. To get a warrant, the police have to go to a justice of the peace or a magistrate to say, with some kind of evidence, that they suspect a crime is being committed, or a search will disclose evidence of a crime. Okay? They've got to say what that is. They can't just, someone told us, we're pretty sure. They've got to give some sort of detail. Okay? That never gets told to the lawyer or the person charged by the lawyer. They've got to have a case to put to the justice of the peace or the magistrate. But once they've got a warrant, the warrant is to search for illegal weapons, say, or for... you don't get a warrant for an unregistered dog, by the way.
You do, you don't in Western Australia as well.
Really? In Western Australia? We'll be moving to that town if they give you a warrant to search a house for unregistered dogs. And just by the way, you've got to register cats as well. Who knew that?
Yeah, no, I did.
I didn't. Anyway, client found out a couple of years ago. You know, really. Anyway, so cats and dogs are meant to be registered. But once the warrant is issued, they come in under the warrant to search for something, you know, guns or something like that. They find drugs. That's perfectly legitimate. They can charge you, and they do charge you with the offences they have discovered. That is the possession or supply maybe of drugs, or the meth lab at your back, because they've got the right to enter. It's not limited just to the grounds of the warrant. What they says they've got the warrant for. They can search for any purpose, and if they come for drugs and they find guns, or vice versa, you can get charged with all those things.
Almost a blank check for
Yeah. So unless you're very, very sure what's inside your house, never allow the police in on an invitation. It's not rude to say no, you can't come in. If you're very, very sure, you might be happy enough for them to come in. But if you're not sure, or if you're pretty sure they're not going to come in, then politely say no. And make them go and get the warrant. They'll probably come back in an hour or so. But make them go and pay, I reckon. I think we're running out of time, but a quick one, hand at the back.
No, you're right, you got time.
Hand at the back end.
Okay, a few months ago, I was mate, cops turned up and didn't have a warrant, so they sent them on their way. A few weeks later, they come back with a warrant.
Yeah.
They got in for about $1.5 grand or something like that.
Speak loud, please.
And one of the officers pulled out a bag of something else
No.
and said, "Oh, is this yours?" And he said, "Well, it is now." So everywhere, you couldn't, they can argue that. So if they want to get there, they're going to get there.
Sure. I'm not going to disagree with that statement. If they're going to get you, they're going to get you.
12-week plan.
Yeah.
Get tested, you know, because they're saying, they just said that they want you, they're going to find a way to, one way or other, if you haven't got anything there, they've been ticked off or something's got you in,
Yeah.
you don't have to wear it.
Look, all I'd say in response to that is the police did not come back and set that fella up because he said, no, you can't come in. I wouldn't think there's any connection between those two things. You're entitled to say to the police, no, you can't come in today. You've got a warrant, and I think you're upset. You're not invited in. And you don't have to say why, you don't have to give any explanation. Just being firm and polite is all you have to do. You're not going to be in any trouble. But they might well, if they have a strong suspicion about something being found, they might come back in half an hour or so. They get warrants over the phone and over the radio, so you know it's not hard. And you wonder why they don't some of the time.
You
But
don't
yeah.
get trouble over the time. You grew up with plans that did get done years and years ago. What does that have anything to do with? I don't know, but yeah, but he's from this 12-week plan and went to started there. So you reckon when they come back with a warrant,
Yeah.
make sure they don't get it.
We go home and look up your record.
Go home and look at the records, yeah. Well, they don't go home, they've got computers. They've got 2017, yeah, 8 people, 2017. Every police station got a computer. They know everything, they know all about you. All about you, not about you. They've got your record, they know what car you drive. They know all about you.
Steve, any change in saliva testing? What's our latest
No.
way of getting around that? Vitamin C, I heard.
Vitamin C is good for you.
That's it. Always carry it in the car. I think that's quite good. Fisherman's friends.
No
Some people reckon it good.
Yeah. Not me saying this, Michael saying this, I don't know. What's
Lime, citrus,
the vinegar, the apple cider vinegar?
apple cider vinegar.
Mouthwash.
What about a bribe? Bribery will get you into more trouble.
What about you just don't use cannabis and drive? Come on. And drive it in a week. Stop driving for a week. Yeah.
Even in milk coffee, I think milky things seem to block it up.
Many theories.
Yeah.
Many theories.
Quite a lot of successes.
Many
I have to
things.
admit, a lot of successes.
The law about saliva testing is well, quite a nice special subject, so I might talk for half an hour after that. The law is one of what's called a strict liability offence. That means the police don't have to prove that you knew that you had THC in your saliva. It's not CBD, by the way, for the thing back to the medicinal thing, it's got to be THC. The law says THC, so it's not just any cannabinoid, it's got to be THC. But I understand it's very difficult to get any CBD product with no THC in it. Anyway, So it's not, they don't have to prove you knew about it, they just have to prove that you were the driver of a car, that they took a saliva sample and that saliva had THC in it, had some THC, no particular cut-off level. They measure it at the lab in Sydney down to 10 nanograms per 100 mil of THC, so it's a pretty tiny kind of dosage that is detectable. That's the offence. Don't have to prove intent. And that's what they call strict liability, that is, there's no intent to prove. The defence to a charge, that is, you're not guilty of the charge, is if you had an honest belief and a reasonably held belief that you did not have THC in your saliva. And that's where we've been having some fun in the local court with a few cases around that. So most recently, we've had a case with, not involving THC, but involving methamphetamine. The fellow said, well, used to use meth about 5 years ago, but hey, not since then. How come I'm positive? He was completely shocked when he tested positive. We ran the case on the basis of all he could think about was he'd been at a party the night before, he had this sort of slushy drink, some sort of slushy thing, and maybe there was something in that, maybe not. His partner had a bit and felt a bit, sat up all night with some sweetness, or maybe that's where it came from. The magistrate said, don't believe that. Believed the fellow when he said, haven't touched it for 5 years, methamphetamine for 5 years. Believed that he'd been to a party and had somebody slushy, but said, no, I don't think that's where it came from. But it's not up to you to prove where it came from. It's up to me to be satisfied beyond doubt that you had a belief that it was not in your system. And the end result was, who knows where it came from. Magistrate did not make a finding, it must have come from the slushy, but accepted the truthfulness of what the fellow was saying, that he hadn't had anything deliberately for years and could not explain, otherwise explain. The police have to prove beyond doubt, not that you intended or that you knew, but that you did not reasonably believe that you did not have the drug in your system. That's one of those things you've got to write down and read the sentence. It's a bit sort of double negatives or triple negatives in there. But that's a defence, okay? So it's not enough just to say, oh, I was very surprised. I thought if I waited 6 hours I'd be fine. That's not enough. You've got to have some reasonable basis. With THC, the government website, there's a website called, from the agency called the Office of Office of Road Safety. I love these names, Office of Drug Control, the Office of Road Safety. They have they're part of New South Wales Transport. They have a website that says for THC, cannabis, for a typical user, it will be detected by the saliva testing within 12 hours, or up to 12 hours, for a typical user. Who knows what a typical user is? They don't define that, but a typical user. So the A defence is if you happen to be a cannabis user for whatever reason, medicinal or otherwise, if you're a cannabis user and you read that website, the Office of Road Safety, New South Wales Government, just Google it, you'll find it. There's a page about saliva testing. That sentence there is there, about usually 12 hours. If you read that and waited 12 hours, possibly a bit more, before you drove your car and got busted, found positive, then you could say, look, I honestly believe I wouldn't be positive. Yes, I had some cannabis 2 days ago, but I waited more than 12 hours. That's what I thought was the rule, the cut-off point, not the rule so much, but the cut-off point. Then you're on good ground, I reckon, if the magistrate believes you.
Is it true, can I just ask the difference between saliva and blood? And then today, because my understanding is that it lasts in the blood a lot longer, so the saliva it obviously doesn't, because we've got the saliva.
That's my understanding too.
So they don't...
Maybe stand up if you don't mind, because otherwise it's really big for that.
I just was curious about, because my understanding it stays in the blood for a lot longer, I'm a novice at this, but it stays in the blood a lot longer, up to 6 weeks, THC. Yeah. So the saliva obviously turning over, so you're getting, so I'm obviously not going to show this on. But my question was, I've heard people say that the police then will also ask for blood tests.
No.
Is that something from New South Wales?
No, they can't.
Maybe a car accident.
Yeah. Not routinely. Not routinely.
Not routinely, they can't ask for blood.
No. The routine testing is saliva. They do a swab at the driver window. If that's positive, they take you back to a police station or maybe a bus and take a further sample. They put it into a sort of more fancy machine. That gives a reading of positive or negative. But either way, whether it's positive or negative on the second police station test, they send that sample down to the lab in Sydney. So the one they do at the roadside just to swab, they throw it away. If that's negative on your way, or by the way you go, if that's positive, they do a second test, the second sample is tested, and it's down to this micro level, and they nearly always, 3% come back negative apparently, but 97% are positive, 97% of those end up being a charge in court, but they don't do any blood testing. They can do blood testing. Michael's right, in car accidents they'll take blood samples. If for some reason they can't get a saliva test from you because you refuse to give one, then they might take blood. I've heard one or two cases where they've done that. That's not very common, but that's because the person's refused to give a saliva test. They normally just charge you, just anticipating that question, what happens then? If you just refuse to give the sample, they charge you refuse to give sample, and rather than take you to the hospital, and then you get charged with that offence, which has a higher penalty than testing positive. You end up off the road for up to 12 months on that, for the refusal charge, and a higher fine. Yes?
What about the law for the consumption of hemp products?
Yes.
I know that's still illegal. Is that going to be changed shortly? Or we've heard anything?
Yes! Happy news for a change. It's good to come to the with some good news. Yes! Thank you, not my fault, but thank you. After many years, and Andrew Cavis is around to do a little dance about this somewhere, I'm sure. After many years of Andrew in particular campaigning around this issue, the relevant Food Safety Authority has now said it's okay for Australians to eat hemp seed. Well, that's a relief. I thought it was such a problem. But now it's legal. Not quite sure how far through the process has gone. The announcement's been made about a month ago. What exactly has to fall into place? Could be. I just saw the announcement that they're going to do it. It's been this committee for years and years that said, no, we're worried about it. Well, we're worried about it. One of the, we're actually around, too far away from medicinal cannabis, we're drifting a feet away, but anyway. One of the main objectors to making hemp seed lawful for human consumption has been the police, for God's sake, who say, we can't have people eating hemp seed because it will interfere with our saliva testing. Well, tail meat dog, who's wagging what, you know? For goodness sake. Anyhow, that's how it's sorted. So anyone who has sprinkles a bit of hemp seed on their cereal can do it illegally for a few more days, but soon we'll be able to do it legally. One more question, I'm going to just keep going, try and stop. So a question up here.
Hi. I'm assuming there'll be a few people here that want to head on down to the Emporium after this and grab some medicinal oil.
Good for you. What's this? I mean, if the town's full of cameras and we're all just heading into the job. Yeah, no, it's prohibition. It's not very pleasant, is it? Sorry, you keep going.
Yeah, so that's my question. I mean, is it okay? It's illegal, but you know, we all sort of going into this shop knowing half the town's got cameras everywhere, and
that's right. That's
you know.
Right. There are cameras around town. Be cool in Nimbin. There are cameras around town.
They're closed.
Okay.
Yeah. So be discreet. Just be discreet. If you're talking to someone on the street, you know, up to you. If you're talking to someone on the street, just don't do it on the main street. Maybe go around the corner somewhere and, you know, somewhere quiet, have your conversation. Certainly, any money changing hands is likely to be picked up on the street by camera. So be very wary of that. The Hemp Embassy, in particular, has no cameras. I can tell you that.
Okay.
So
knowing that this event was in the paper, you know, and I'm driving home and, you know, I mean, if they do it to the smart or whatever, I haven't taken it, obviously, you're not about to say, okay, man, get out of the car and, you know, do a bloody search on the car or something.
Sure.
Spread your legs, spread your legs.
Look, it's a tragedy. It's the only word for it. The tragedy is that people who are using medicinal cannabis because they've got shocking cancer wrecking their body, their kids are having fits 50 times a day. It's so awful, it's unspeakable, that kind of behaviour has been caught up by these stupid laws that have been around for 50 or 60 years, that have been causing enough trouble anyway, but now they're causing trouble to people who are genuinely, seriously needing some pain relief, some treatment for very serious conditions. The government, being a government, state and federal, has been slow as to react, but they are at least a little bit reacting now. They accept all the rhetoric, they accept it's a problem, they accept that something should be done, they just haven't done enough. But the point you're making is a good one. Otherwise, everyone who is using medicinal cannabis is now accessing it from the black market. If you've got it in your possession because you're going to take it home to your mum because she's got 3 months to live and God, she's having a shit rock in time, but the cannabis helps, you're breaking the law. If you're driving down the road and the police stop you to do a random breath test, okay? They'll do an alcohol test without going too far. I'm trying to keep on the subject, really, I really am. But they'll stop you and they'll do a random breath test. It's a typical kind of thing. They might or might not do the saliva test. Depending on, I reckon it depends on what kind of car you drive and what you look like and if you're a hippie or not, that kind of stuff. But anyway, they don't necessarily do the saliva test. But say they do, and say you test positive. That is not grounds for them to search your car. Doesn't give them any reasonable suspicion that you've got something illegal in your car. The police can only search your car, again, similar, don't have warrants, but similar kind of rule. If the police want to search your car, they can ask you, do you mind if you look through your car? Sure, you might say. The fellow did that not that long ago. He's sorry he said that, but he said sure. Anyway, if you say no, then they don't have a right to search, unless they have a reasonable suspicion that searching your car would uncover evidence of an offence being committed.
As in more drugs? As in more drugs in the car?
As in drugs.
Oh,
but the fact that you've tested positive on a roadside saliva test doesn't mean you've got drugs in your car, doesn't mean anything. It just means you've got a positive reaction to cannabis. I know that means you might have had a smoke of cannabis in the last 2 weeks, because that's what they pick up, despite what the website says, not what I'm talking about. Sorry, I said that. Go to the website, Office of Road Safety. That's what they do, 12 hours. That's the rule. That's the official rule. Right? But seriously, the fact that you're positive to got THC in saliva doesn't mean anything in your car. No grounds at all. What they will find is reasonable, or what a court will accept as reasonable, will be anything you might say to the cops, as in some kind of aggressive, defensive behaviour, as in it's got something to hide. Body language stuff about nervousness and don't look in the car, don't look in the car, don't look in the boot, that sort of stuff. Or just general kind of appearance of the car. If it's an older car, second-hand, 20-year-old car, if you're a young man under the age of 23 or thereabouts, hair a bit long, haven't had it after a week. Two hands at once. That one, I reckon, because I'm right-handed.
Just on the car searching.
Yeah.
If you do deny them permission to come into your vehicle, but they can legally come to your vehicle if they believe that there's a reason to, can't they just push past you and say, well, we suspect that you could have drugs in it. So what grounds do you have at stopping a police officer from searching your car if they don't have one?
And look, again, that's a good point, a very good point. I'll give you the second part of the answer to the last question in a way. So the scenario is, police want to search your car, you don't allow them. They say, we're going to search your car, you say, no, I don't agree, I don't consent to the search, okay? It's not about then stopping the police doing the search. What you say to the police is, no, I don't consent. And for the extra mark, you can say, please write on the note that I don't consent. Just make a note of that. Anyway, but if they do, but you don't stop them searching, because then you're in trouble for the offence of interviewing police, of resist police in execution of duty. Where it becomes helpful and maybe successful is at court, at the next stage. They conduct the search, they find something in the boot, they find something in the glove box, wherever it might be. Because you haven't consented to the search, then it's possible for a lawyer, or you, or your lawyer, to argue in court there was no reasonable grounds for the search to occur. Okay? If the magistrate or judge agrees that there was no reasonable grounds for the search, then anything that's been uncovered by the search is not lawfully obtained, and then, unless it's 500 kilos of methamphetamine, the prosecution would then be not allowed to bring that evidence to the court. And again, without being too flippant, depends on the seriousness of the charge. Okay, so a reasonably minor amount of drugs would not be allowed in. A massive container load would be allowed in, because the balance of the illegality and the offence is sort of weighed up by the judge. Okay, so it's not absolutely strict rule. There's a case which is still good law in New South Wales, so really good, a good illustration of it, involving a car. A young fellow was driving along. This is a very short story. Fellow was young bloke, driving a car, some kind of fancy convertible sports car. His auntie was a real estate agent, had lots of money anyway, had allowed him to borrow the car. He was fanging along down the highway in Sydney somewhere, and this obviously too good for him car. Whoa! Cops drove up next to him and said, "Who owns this car? What are you doing?" He said something a bit ambiguous. He didn't say, "It's my auntie's" or something. He said something that was a bit confusing to them, so they pulled him over. As they pulled him over, he reached across to the glove box, as sometimes you do, and the police saw him do that. You know? They searched the glove box and found some weed. You know? They then got his name and address, went back and got a warrant and searched his house and found plants growing in his house. So he's in a fair bit of trouble. But the court found that there was no reasonable grounds to search his car on the basis that when they pulled him over, he had leaned over to the glove box. The court said, not enough. Not enough to give reasonable suspicion. It's a case defence lawyer's love. But the standard can be quite high about what has to be reasonable suspicion. It's got to be something. On the other hand, there are cases where combis have been searched because it's a combi, yeah, fair enough. 20-year-old car search, 20-year-old holding search for 20-year-old, fair enough. The judges say, oh, fair enough. Probably illegal behaviour in a 20-year-old car, of course. So every case is different, but depending on all the circumstances, you may have an argument to exclude the evidence, and it's certainly worth thinking about and getting some legal advice about. So the best advice to give in a situation like this is be aware you don't have to give consent. If you withhold your consent, that is, you say, no, I don't agree, they'll still search, and you should still allow them to search, but you might have an argument that gets you off the criminal charge in the second stage at court.
There's a question here, Steve.
Hi. Hi.
I'll take you, there's hand up the back as well. You can be first.
Thank you. Is it reasonable to assume that if you have a serious medical condition and if you did get pulled over and tested positive, that you would, does it happen commonly in lismore that's section 10, so granted, to people with serious medical? It happens commonly?
In lismore, we're pretty lucky with the magistrates we have at the moment. That's not guaranteed to continue forever. They change magistrates every day we can. But at different courts, different places, different attitudes of different magistrates. The Byron Bay magistrate, for example, has a quite different attitude to the regular Lismore magistrate. So you could just go 20 k's down the road and a whole different scenario. Some magistrates are more lenient on these issues than others, but typically, in terms of the saliva testing charge, most magistrates are lenient, if that's what it is, for a person who has no prior offences or nothing for 10 or 20 years, certainly no drink driving offences on their record, but a good driving record, and commonly zero indication of any impairment. Okay? The typical fact sheet, that's the summary sheet the police prepare for the court. They just have a pro forma for these charges, for the saliva test charges. The typical thing is, I was on duty on such and such a the date and the time and the registration number of the car that pulled over and so on, and a random test. There is nothing in the paperwork that says there's any effect on the driving, except we get negative, okay? So the police say, stop the car, on duty, stop the car, driver was, Joe Bloggs, tested Joe, he tested positive, here's the report from the lab that said there was definitely something in it, full stop. They don't say that Joe was driving erratically, don't say that Joe drove through a red light, don't say that Joe really ran a pedestrian over. None of those things are there. So most magistrates will accept there was no impairment, that there must have been some delay, because everyone kind of knows that there's the gap between when you might have consumed the drug and driven the car could be a substantial amount. If you say nothing to the cops about, I had a smoke an hour ago, well, there's no evidence about how most recently you smoked, so a good idea to say nothing. And there's no impairment, there's no evidence of it impairing you. Okay? So most cases end up in front of the court as pretty low-level offending. You've just sort of broken a rule rather than doing anything else. There's no sort of danger, no apparent danger to the public by driving in that condition. And that is with some trace of THC in your saliva. So most magistrates, even the tough guy down at Byron Bay, would be a bit more lenient than for other charges. However, you get one section 10, not 2, not 3, not 4. You can get one for these offences once in 5 years, so 5 years before you get another one, and the police record not just the convictions, but the charges and the positive results on their database. Every highway patrol car has a computer, and that has a record of the registration numbers of everyone who's tested positive to THC, or methamphetamine, whatever else. So the policing of the rule of the law is now increasingly, police drive past you, you're the driver of the car, not you, but your rego number comes up on there's literally a red flash on their computer, they pull you over, test you, you might test positive again. Second time you don't get a section 10, you get disqualified for 3 months, but that's your first offence. Third time, 6 months, gets out of control. Losing track of their hands, there's a person here, there was someone at the back, I think you might have been earlier, but woman in the greenish shirt, oh, my man at the back is standing up, so I'll go him first, then you'll come.
Good afternoon, my name's Bernard. Firstly, thanks very much for burning a bit of time.
Speak up, please.
The second thing is I've got terminal cancer and I'm about to embark on a mother silent trip around Australia. We do suggest that I actually take some medical records with me so if I do get pulled over I can actually nip it in the bud with the police officers before it's been further.
Sorry to hear the question in a way, but the...
I'm not sorry.
But thank you for it, thank you. I would recommend you go on to the medicinal, no, they've changed the name, the compassionate cannabis scheme, I think they call it these days. It used to be called the terminal illness cannabis scheme. I think they call it compassionate cannabis scheme. In any event, there's a website, if you, or see me afterwards, I can give the details if I can find them somewhere. If you go on that register, you've got to give them your name and address and so on.
Not your car rego.
Not your car rego, not your car rego, that's all right. But give them your name and address. This is a police database, so you've got to take a leap of faith, I suppose. But you tell them and give them the medical evidence that you no doubt would have from your doctor. You can nominate a couple of people, as I said before, to be your carers, therefore suppliers, so they can also get the same benefit of immunity. It's a discretion on the police to not prosecute you. Okay? They have not searched anybody, as far as I know, they have not searched. Anyone who's put their name forward on that register has not been searched. They don't come to your house. No?
They have come to people's houses and taken plants.
Not if
You're not allowed to grow a plant.
Not if you're on the terminal register.
On ticks they did.
Okay.
Maybe not recently.
It doesn't cover the cultivation.
No.
So that's right. If you get a bit of paper from ticks, the terminal illness thing that's now called ticks.
I'm not sure, it's got compassion.
But you get a bit of paper. So if you were in the driving situation, if you showed them that bit of paper, that might help.
Yeah.
I can't say it would.
I would definitely take it.
I would certainly show them, because if they say, oh, fair enough, mate, off you go, then it's one less thing you have to worry about.
It's very individual, the cops. You know, a cop out in the middle of the desert reads that, he might be lenient.
Yeah.
2 of them is more difficult.
Yeah.
We have to wind up soon. A couple more quick questions.
Yeah. Just to help this. These are very including now. Yeah, that's great, thank you.
When you talk about legalities of police searching, and they can search, whether they can search a car, what about if it's going on the stuff? I think girls
The question was what about...
Personal search.
Yeah. The question was about personal searches, that is searches of yourself, of your body, of your clothing and so on. It's the same law for cars as for people, vehicles and personal searches. So if the police want to search you personally, that is go through your pockets and so on, they will ask, would you mind if we search you, sir? You can say, I would mind, I don't consent. Okay? First do I say you don't consent. Then they go ahead and search you anyway, all right? Don't resist, because that's the offence, as I said before, so don't resist them, just say, I don't consent. If they have a reasonable basis to search you, okay, that's their argument, okay, that is something that might have to be tested in court. You don't have to. I mean, you might end up, a person might be searched, might find a gram of weed in their pocket, they might go to court and think that search was illegal, but hey, I don't really care, I'm going to get a fine. You don't have to, you're not kind of locked into having to raise these legal arguments, but you might be able to raise them successfully. So it just gives you the option, okay? So, yep. The search includes physically touching you, as in patting you down and touching your body, touching your clothing. If they can do strip searching as well, there's a little bit of greyness around the strip searching, but they are allowed to strip search. The argument might be that in a particular situation, the strip searching was just so beyond what they had to do that that became unlawful or improper in terms of the evidence rules. So it's not just unlawfully obtained evidence, it's improperly obtained evidence that can be excluded. Okay? So if the prisoner is something, maybe not illegal, but slightly kind of, or at least more than slightly, but a bit wrong, then you can argue it's improper what they've done. So a strip search might be improper, not strictly illegal, but improper. And if they're going to do a strip search, they've mentioned it with an officer of the same sex. They do it, they do strip search. But the lawfulness of it depends on the reasonable basis for wanting to search it. So they don't have a right just to search any. They can't, for example, come into this room and say, everyone up against, we're going to strip search everybody. Right? They can't do that. There'll be one by one individual suspicion or cause for a reasonable suspicion that the search will disclose. That's the word, disclose evidence of an offence. One more hand up there and then Michael's going to take over the microphone and throw me off the stage, which is probably overdue.
He's going to arrest you.
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
Strip search you.
Sorry.
We're not talking about the MC interfering with roadside testing, saliva testing, or whatever. That sort of implies that MC has got THC in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Minuscule
I don't think
amounts.
so.
But that minuscule amount can still set off.
No,
No?
I reckon.
I reckon it's bullshit too. I agree with Michael. It's not really my field. What I understand about...
Oh, I can answer something.
I'll give an answer if it's from someone. I think the answer is that it's because a lot of hemp seed comes from China. We always go to China these days. It's always China's fault these days anyway. Because a lot of it comes from China in particular, the washing of the seed is not as thorough as it might be, and so you end up with some leaf, some cannabis leaf, just small amounts in the seed. So you have a spoonful of the seed. You may not even see it, but there is potentially some minuscule quantity of THC from the leaf. I think the shell of the seed has THC, but the seed itself doesn't.
So why are
they
they
must take
saying
the
it's
shell
the
off.
police?
No, because the police say what they want to say. I don't know. I don't know if they filter through. I'm not here to defend the police. I don't know. I always thought it was a stupid, absolutely, even by police standards,
It's
a
power.
stupid thing
I think
to
it's
say
power.
that people shouldn't be allowed to have hemp seed because it might upset their saliva testing. It just indicates that their saliva testing is so way away from any kind of reality that they should be rethinking that. Or turn your knobs up a bit, so you're testing for, up here is down here for the levels, but perhaps they've got on the record for a few times. I don't know if they might have said it this time, I don't know, but maybe the committee overruled it, but the committee has agreed with them for the last 5 months. I've got to go. I think I've got some increased
I've got to make a note because we've got to keep moving, and I'm hoping you'll hang in, and then we'll have a long break after we all listen to Zane Archer talk for half an hour, and then we'll have a long break outside, if you're all up to it. And Steve, you'll hang around for a while, so I'm sorry to interrupt questions, but he'll hang around outside for a while, until Essendon starts anyway. No, that's tonight. Thanks heaps, Steve, for coming. Andrew was talking at Mardi Gras. He always comes out for Mardi Gras doing legal advice sessions. And Steve Bolt Finlay, in a little ad for him, he's a solicitor in Lismore.